Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Now that it's a Tuesday, it is hard to believe, but we are officially exactly 1 week away from October. Next Tuesday, we will be in October. But today, here on the channel, since I'm already looking forward to week number 5 in the world of college football, which will start this Thursday night, September 26th, I want to go ahead and look at the schedule of games for this week, which of course will start Thursday night at 7:30. The ESPN Thursday night game is Army and Temple. And before I talk about any more of the games, I want to quickly say that if you watched the Clemson NC State game from this past Saturday, which if you did not, then you watched the wrong noon game. But if you did, there was a call in the game. I want to say it was third quarter, but I could be misremembering. But anyway, there was a call in the game for a personal foul on Clemson for hands to the face, and it was hands to the face, so it was the right call. But I was so glad that the referee, which by the way, I do not know what his name was, there was actually very few penalties in that game, and the ones they did have, they didn't put the ref's name on the screen, and I don't think Sean McDonough said his name, or I would give him props. But when he threw the flag for that, he said personal foul, hands to the face. If I could have kissed the man's forehead through the TV, I would have. It absolutely drives me crazy when a referee throws a flag for that foul and they'll get up there and they'll say, personal foul, illegal hands to the face. Well, there's no such thing as legal hands to the face. And if all hands to the face are illegal, why do you have to say illegal? Why can't you just say hands to the face? Obviously, if it's a personal foul, we know it's illegal. That absolutely drives me crazy, which, of course, if you've watched this channel long enough, you know by now that I've turned into one of those old, grumpy, get off my lawn old men where everybody does drives me crazy. But why specify illegal hands to the face? If it's a penalty, then we know it's illegal. Don't say that. Just do what the ref did in the Clemson game Saturday and say hands to the face. We got it. That's all you got to do. You're adding words you ain't got to say. But on to more games. Friday night at 7:30 on ESPN, we have an old Big East matchup. The Virginia Tech Hokies and the Miami Hurricanes, which before the season started, on paper, this looked like it was going to be a pretty good matchup. These two teams are old rivals. And I did a video where I predicted Miami's schedule this year, and I said they're at least a 10-win team, and I've seen nothing to change my mind. They are really good, and this is not one of those media overblown, the U is back when they're not really back. This year, they're really, truly a good football team. But the Hokies were supposed to be a good football team, and for whatever reason, they just have not been. So this may not be as close of a game as it looked like it was going to be before the season started. Also, Friday night on Fox, 8 o'clock, we have Washington and Rutgers. And, of course, that is a conference game as well. And then Saturday, starting at noon, we have Kentucky and Ole Miss on ABC. And if Kentucky does not play any better in that game than they played against Georgia or South Carolina, they're not going to be able to score, and Ole Miss will put up 50. The game won't be close, so hopefully Kentucky can move the ball a little bit. The big noon kickoff on Fox for Saturday is Minnesota and Michigan, two teams that combined might have about 85 passing yards. The ESPN noon game is Oklahoma State and Kansas State. The Fox Sports 1 noon game is BYU and Baylor. And then we have Maryland and Indiana on the Big Ten Network. Nebraska and Purdue on Peacock. Buffalo and Yukon on the CBS Sports Network. Western Kentucky and Boston College on the ACC Network. And then we have Northern Illinois and NC State on CW, Navy and UAB on ESPN2, and that is all the noon games. 3:30 on CBS, Wisconsin and USC. That is the Big Ten game of the week. Since CBS no longer carries the SEC, they now carry the Big Ten at 3:30, and it's usually a Big Ten game of the week. And they still use the same theme music they've had as far back as I can remember, and it's still Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. And to be honest, Gary Danielson is not near as annoying now that CBS no longer carries the SEC. And I'm actually old enough to remember Gary Danielson commenting and commentating before he worked for CBS, before it was the SEC, and he wasn't annoying. What happened was he got hired by CBS to be their new color guy, and Gary Danielson is a Midwest guy. He played in the Big Ten. He can probably tell you anything you want to know about any school in the Big Ten and probably half the schools in the Big 12. But when he got hired for CBS to do SEC football, he just followed Alabama. Why? Because they're always good. So he knew more often than not, if I mention Alabama, people are going to be listening because they're always good. So he did the same thing that Paul Feinbaum and all the other SEC homers do. He just jumped on the coattails of a team that's always good. And it's not bad when Alabama's playing, but if you're watching a 3:30 game and it's South Carolina and Florida, you don't want to hear Gary Danielson spend 30 minutes talking about Alabama. That game has nothing to do with Alabama. But every game he did, he had to somehow, some way tie Alabama into the contest because he didn't know anything about either team playing. If it wasn't Bama, he didn't know. Well, now that CBS carries the Big Ten, he's back at home, so he can talk about the game that's on. So he's not near as annoying now that CBS carries the Big Ten. Louisville and Notre Dame is the 3:30 game on Peacock. Arkansas and Texas A&M on ESPN. And before the season started, I said Arkansas wasn't going to be any good, and nothing's changed my mind. They're still not good, but they may end up winning a couple of more games than I expected because I didn't realize that Hugh Freeze, the offensive genius that he is, would be in year 2 at Auburn and still can't score a touchdown. And I thought Texas A&M was going to play better than what they have so far under their new head coach, Mike Elko. They wanted Jimbo gone, they got him gone, and they just have not looked good at all. So Arkansas may beat A&M on Saturday. Louisiana and Wake Forest on the ACC network. Colorado and Central Florida on Fox. Fresno State and UNLV on Fox Sports 1. The battle of the small Georgia schools, Georgia Southern and Georgia State on ESPN. Oklahoma and Auburn on ABC, and that is the 3:30 games. 4 o'clock, ESPN2. 2 basketball schools, and believe it or not, one of them is actually playing pretty good this year. North Carolina and Duke. Duke, speaking of teams with new head coaches, has looked really good so far under Manny Diaz. 4:15 on the SEC network, Mississippi State and Texas. 7 o'clock on Peacock, Ohio State and Michigan State. The ESPN 7 o'clock game is the game you should be watching Saturday night. If you don't watch this game, you're watching the wrong game. It is homecoming at the only real true Death Valley, which is in South Carolina. Stanford comes to town, so Stanford and Clemson is the ESPN 7 o'clock game. Iowa State and Houston on Fox Sports 1. Then at 7:30 on ABC we have Georgia and Alabama. NBC we have Illinois and Penn State. And Penn State every year, they come out of the gates top 10, top 15, always supposed to be really good, and they end up being an average football team. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Illinois beats them Saturday night, especially considering Brett Bielema is a really good head coach. Illinois has played some really good football so far this year. ESPNU, we have Middle Tennessee State against Memphis. 7:45 on the SEC network, South Alabama and LSU. 8 o'clock on the ACC network, Florida State and SMU. And Florida State better find an offense in a hurry, or that game might get ugly. ESPN 2, Cincinnati and Texas Tech. The CBS Sports Network, Air Force and Wyoming. And then moving into the West Coast late games Saturday night, that'll go into Sunday morning. 10 o'clock on Fox Sports 1, we have Washington State and Boise State. 10:15 on ESPN, we have Arizona and Utah. Then 11 o'clock on Fox, we have Oregon and UCLA. And that is all the games that are on national TV this weekend, starting Thursday night in the world of college football. I don't include games that come on ESPN Plus and the SEC Network Plus and the ACC Network Plus, because most people don't have those channels. Unless you're a diehard fan, you're not going to pay to watch them, because typically the games that come on there are generally not worth watching. So you have to just love college football to pay extra to watch those games. But I do always talk about the games that are on ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, Fox Sports 1, ESPN, ESPN 2, the ACC Network, and the SEC Network, because just about everybody has those channels. Even if you ain't got them all year round, you have them during college football season. And now, of course, we have to add the CW in there, because the CW now carries college football. Hard to believe this is the final weekend in the month of September. So we'll be through week 5 come Saturday night, early Sunday morning. And just about every team is going to have 4 games in. Some teams have not had a bye week yet, and they'll be 5 games in. But most teams are 4 games in, so you've played 1/3 of your regular season, regularly scheduled 12 games. So come Sunday, after 1/3 of the season has been played, you generally have a pretty good gauge on what teams are really good, what teams are really bad, what teams need improvement big time, what teams are overrated, and what teams are underrated. Generally, after 4 games, you can pretty much figure that out. And of course, after this weekend, since we'll be heading into October, there'll be some early Heisman odds that come out. And quite frankly, I don't think anybody right now has played good enough to win the Heisman Trophy. But generally, somebody, most of the time a quarterback, will have one outstanding game, and that'll make him the Heisman favorite. And if he doesn't mess up after that, he usually ends up winning it. They should just change the name of the award from the Heisman Trophy to the Quarterback Trophy, because the quarterback wins it just about every year, especially if you play for a top 5 team. If you play for Ohio State or Georgia or, Michigan, USC, any of those big-time teams, Alabama, if your team goes 12-0 or 11-1, you can complete half your passes and have 6 touchdowns and 10 picks, and you probably going to win it because you quarterback for the best team in America. That's just what the awards come to. I've never liked the award, never have, never will, but some people are all about the Heisman Trophy. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Why does the Norwegian Navy have barcodes on the side of their ships? So when they come back to port, they can Scandinavian. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of three. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.